Now, the Epstein, the Epstein file just got released. And where's the evidence? Trump is nowhere on there doing anything bad. So what does Trump do? Let's move on to the next mission. He's sending Armada over to Iran, getting ready to do something. Is he going to attack? Is he going to press on them? It's crazy. But I'm glad we're past the Epstein file. In any case, welcome to Verbal on Life. My name is Noel. Over here to be verbal about the news and what's really going on out there. Because the fake news won't stop. We got to hear what's real. In this video, let's take a look at Maria Bartiromo reporting on what's actually happening out there. Because Trump is making it happen. Insane. Let's take a look.
Good Sunday morning, everyone. Welcome to Sunday Morning Futures. I'm Maria Bartiromo. Thanks so much for joining us. Today, a new chairman of the Federal Reserve is on the way. But will President Trump's choice to lead the powerful institution get tripped up in the Senate by the president's critics? Plus, a powerful armada is in striking distance of Iran right now, as President Trump once again warns the Ayatollah to stop the killings.
We have a large armada, flotilla, call it whatever you want, heading toward Iran right now, even larger than what we had in Venezuela.
Iran claims its finger is on the trigger should President Trump get involved in Iranian leadership crushing dissent. Coming up, Missouri Senator Eric Schmidt from the Joint Economic, Judiciary, and Armed Services Committees, with President Trump's options on the table, along with former National Security Advisor Victoria Coates on the tinderbox in the Middle East. Will the rogue regime finally fall at the hands of President Trump? Plus, the soft power behind the man.
You can come in. Good morning. My proudest legacy will be that of peacemaker.
Peacemaker and defiant.
First Lady Melania Trump launches her highly anticipated documentary where she advises her husband to unify the country. Will he do it? Coming up, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt with the president's agenda ahead. Then drugs, human trafficking, and murder in Mexico. The Mexican ambassador is here this morning on claims Mexico is capitalizing on holes in U.S. immigration policy to undermine the country. Ambassador Esteban Moctezuma Barragan in the hot seat this morning, along with Texas Governor Greg Abbott at the center of border crossings in America at the Texas border. It's all right here, right now on Sunday Morning Futures. And we begin this Sunday morning with President Trump's agenda amidst a partial government shutdown this weekend. And after the commander-in-chief made a series of announcements last week affecting the economy and foreign policy, the president sending a formidable armada of warships to and in striking distance of Iran. Iran now this morning is denying reports that it will conduct live fire drills today and tomorrow in the Straits of Hormuz, which is that narrow waterway between the Islamic Republic and Oman, where 20% of global oil is transported. The Wall Street Journal is reporting that the Trump administration is considering whether to hit Iran's remaining nuclear programs or its ballistic missile arsenal or take down the Khomeini regime altogether, which continues to crush dissent, reportedly killing tens of thousands of protesters in the past few weeks. The president also making public this week his long-awaited choice to head the Federal Reserve, saying on Friday that he will nominate former Fed Governor Kevin Warsh as the next chairman of the Fed once Jay Powell's term ends in May. Warsh was previously a member of the Federal Reserve Board from 2006 to 2011, working as an economic advisor in President George W. Bush's administration as well. Warsh is expected to cut interest rates 2 times, possibly 3 times this year to combat inflation, which this week once again came in hotter than expected and above the Fed's target, in part due to the $7 trillion in new spending that took place under the Biden administration. I spoke with Kevin Warsh exclusively on this program last year about the Fed's policy under Jay Powell.
The president's right to be frustrated with Jay Powell and the Federal Reserve. Inflation comes when the government spends too much. That's the spending you're talking about, and prints too much. The president took a good shot at putting the fiscal house in order through this tax bill. The U.S. is on the cusp of, I think, a radical improvement in our productive capacity.
Should the Federal Reserve be cutting interest rates right now?
So in a word, yes. Maria, it's quite simple. Why is it that money and financial conditions are so loose on Wall Street and considerably tighter on Main Street? Because the Fed has the policy mix exactly wrong. It has a big balance sheet like we're in the 08 crisis, the 2020 pandemic, and has rates that are too high. It needs to shrink the Fed balance sheet and cut interest rates. In so doing, Main Street can get a much lower cost of credit.
Yeah.
First-time home buyers can find their way into houses, and the policy mix would be right.
Republican senators and some Democrats tell me that Warsh will likely be confirmed, although the confirmation process is already facing at least one potential hurdle. North Carolina Republican Senator Tom Tillis, who sits on the Senate Banking Committee, says that he will oppose all confirmations of any nominee until the Justice Department ends its investigation into Jay Powell over allegations of making false statements to Congress about the Fed's building renovation currently underway. Coming up, we will speak to Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt about that, as well as the Armada in striking distance to Iran. But first, this, Unity in America. First Lady Melania Trump's highly anticipated documentary, Melania, out in theaters globally this weekend, where at one point, the First Lady advises President Trump to be a unifier, something Mrs. Trump explained to me in my one-on-one this week on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business.
I think he's doing a fantastic job. He had a great success. And he's unifier. He's positive thinking, forward thinking. He wants to put, this country in the order that everybody can live here freely, not in danger. He would like to have a country that all of the people can walk down the street and not to be harassed or murdered or women raped. I think it's very important. And what happened a few years ago, so many criminals came over the border, and he closed the border now a while back already. And we need to take care of our citizens.
And joining me now with more on the president's agenda and his efforts to unify the country in this moment in time in the Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt. Caroline, thanks so much for being here with us this morning. You heard what the First Lady told me. Does the president talk about that with you? Has he talked about efforts to unify the country?
Absolutely, Maria. He talks about that quite often. And first of all, I want to say congratulations to Mrs. Trump, our beautiful, wonderful, classy First Lady, on the debut of her documentary film. I know that it's a blockbuster movie in theaters now, and it's a really a great example of what the First Lady is truly like behind the scenes. And she has a great influence on the president. And as you heard from her in that clip with you, yes, the president wants to unify the country. And I know the president feels the best way to do that is by bringing people together through prosperity and safety. And if Americans are living in safe communities, if they have more money in their pockets, if Americans are given the real chance to live the American dream, that's ultimately how we are going to unify the country. And that's what the president is working towards every day.
And I heard Tom Homan earlier this week say, look, we're going to focus on the criminals. We're not just getting people out as a priority because they broke the law in the first place to get in here, but we're prioritizing first those people who are committing crime. So, Caroline, talk to us about what you envision here, because we're going to talk with Eric Schmitt, the senator from Missouri, in a few moments. And he put a 4-point plan out on the Senate floor last week on what to do about the debate over the immigration crackdown. Do you expect new restrictions on Border Patrol, Caroline? What can you tell us in terms of the results here as a result of the fact that 2 people are dead.
Everybody gotta
Even
go.
though the president is trying to weed out criminality in this country, and you've seen this resistance.
Well, the White House and the president are open and willing to listen. I know the president said aboard Air Force One last night that those conversations and discussions will continue. Last week, the White House invited moderate Democrat senators to come to the White House and to discuss their concerns so that we can hear them out and at least see what they are trying to put on the table. Unfortunately, that meeting was blocked by their leadership. So these conversations will continue, to Maria, and ultimately the president will be the decider on any policy changes. But what I know in talking with the president and seeing what this administration has done over the course of the last year is that President Trump is never going to waver in the commitment that he made to the nearly 80 million Americans who voted for him to deport illegal alien criminals who broke our nation's laws to get here and then have committed further crimes of violence against American citizens. And that's why ICE and Border Patrol are true patriots. They need to be respected. The Democrats need to agree to stop demonizing them. We've heard despicable rhetoric from people on the left comparing ICE to the Nazi Gestapo, Donald Trump's police force. That is egregious language that has led to the increase in violence, threats, and attacks against ICE agents who are brave men and women who put on the uniform to enforce our nation's immigration laws. So the Trump administration is always going to be on the side of law and order, and we want to remove these illegal alien rapists, murderers, pedophiles, despicable individuals from our country to protect the homeland. And the president has done a phenomenal job at doing that. And that's why murder rates in this country, newly released data show, are at the lowest in recorded history. These things are not coincidental. Under Joe Biden, murders were up, violent crime was up. We had illegal aliens invading our country from all over this world. All of that has ended. So President Trump knows what works. Democrats, if they were smart, would trust him and listen to him.
Yeah, it's just very upsetting to see innocent people lose their lives. But I also recognize that you cannot resist Border Patrol and you cannot get in their faces and obstruct what they're doing in terms of their operations. So,
and you know, a lot of times, like these criminals, they live with other illegal immigrants who may not be criminals, but they're here illegal. And then when the Border Patrol goes in there, they take out the criminals and everybody else in the house that's illegal and deports everybody. Even Granny gotta go.
do you expect any changes in that regard?
Well, look, as you said, Maria, the president, nobody in the Trump administration nor the White House wants to see Americans losing their lives. What we want is law and order. What we want is for the brave men and women of law enforcement to be able to do their jobs and carry out lawful immigration enforcement operations without being demonized, spit on, without their vehicles being kicked in by agitators, many of whom are paid. And I know the FBI and Department of Justice are looking into these organized crime rings of these leftist agitators who have been attacking our law enforcement in a very sophisticated manner.
Yeah, it's a very important point that you make there. The president is also getting, some pushback in certain pockets of the Republican Party, right? I mean, look what happened with Tom Tillis. You've got Kevin Warsh, the president, making this announcement that is his choice for the next chairman of the Federal Reserve. And Tillis comes out and says, look, I'm not going to move anybody forward. He's on the Senate Banking Committee. So what are your thoughts in terms of Kevin Warsh's prospects in terms of getting confirmed and becoming the next chairman of the Fed, given Tom Tillis's pushback?
Well, I certainly don't think a United States sitting senator should be holding the entire country and our economy hostage over the fact that he has some political disagreements with an investigation that the Department of Justice is overseeing. And the DOJ is overseeing a probe into Jerome Powell, a legitimate probe. And Jerome Powell is expected to be out of this job in May anyway. So I don't understand Senator Tillis's argument there. President Trump has appointed Kevin Warsh, who is a highly qualified and distinguished economist with a very exceptional resume. And the White House is going to work with the Senate to quickly confirm him because we need a new chairman of the Fed, not just for timing purposes, but also for our economy. Look, President Trump has brought the core annualized inflation rate down to 1.4%. This is a remarkable turnaround from the record high 9% inflation we saw under the previous administration. And President Trump has done the work. His policies are working. And the interest interest rates for the American people need to be lowered. Kevin Warsh ultimately will make that decision himself, but it's very unfortunate that Senator Tillis is making such comments.
Caroline, look ahead for us. What are the most important catalysts that we need to be aware of in the week ahead? I know that banks and crypto companies are going to be at the White House tomorrow. Is there anything else you can tell us that we could look forward to on the president's schedule in the week ahead?
Sure. Well, the president's going to have another busy week. As always, you're going to hear from him. Some more drug pricing announcements will be coming this week, as well as some other economic related news. You saw last week the president was in Iowa. He's gearing up for another domestic trip, not this week, but the following week. And he looks forward to continuing to go across the country, Maria, and talk to everyday Americans about how his economic policies are working for them and their families.
All right. We will be watching every step of the way. Caroline, great to have you this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria. You too.
All right. Meanwhile, on Capitol Hill, lawmakers are negotiating new limits to the president's immigration policies after the Senate voted to pass a new spending package late Friday, which funded most agencies until September, but it allowed for just 2 weeks of funding for the Department of Homeland Security. Republican sources now tell Fox the package should be voted on Tuesday in the House after the deadline to fund the Pentagon and the Department of Homeland Security came and went at midnight on Saturday morning, triggering a partial government shutdown, which we're in right now. My next guest, Missouri Senator Eric Schmitt, laid out a 4-point immigration plan on the Senate floor on Friday, which includes ending sanctuary cities, enhancing penalties for illegal entry and reentry, protecting law enforcement officers, and dismantling rogue non-governmental organizations. Joining me now, the man himself with more on his plan is Senator Eric Schmitt. Senator, it's great to see you. Thanks so much for being here.
Good to be with you, Maria.
So do you expect we're going to see new restrictions or changes with regard to Border Patrol and the Department of Homeland Security? What's your expectation?
Yeah, I want to be clear. We're not going to do anything that inhibits law enforcement's ability to execute the laws that Congress has voted on and the deportations the American people voted on in November of 2024. President Trump ran on this issue. It wasn't a footnote, wasn't a side note. This was a central plank of his campaign. The American people deserve that. And I think it's important, Maria, to take a step back. This didn't begin in Minneapolis last weekend or even when President Trump last January. This began in January of 2021 when Joe Biden took office, dismantled the border controls that we had before, and let in 15 to 20 million people here illegally, including tens of thousands of murderers, hundreds of thousands of other criminals. And so to my Democrat colleagues who've made this now a central focus of the next 2 weeks, thank you. Thank you very much, because we're going to have this debate now. This is a home game for us. We need to be aggressive. If they're going to put forward these ridiculous proposals that put immigration enforcement and the individuals who have families in harm's way, we're going to propose and move forward on ending sanctuary cities, increasing the penalties for illegal entry and reentry, making sure we dismantle this NGO network that exists that's creating all these confrontations and protecting law enforcement. We should not back down at all, Maria. We need to press forward, and the deportations will continue.
Well, you've also got, leaders in the Democrat Party telling citizens to get in their faces, get in the faces of ICE. Okay, well, Tim Walz just the other day, 2 weeks ago, told citizens to get out their cameras and record all of the ICE operations. You've got people pushing back because they're getting the directive from your colleagues on the left.
Yeah, I think the most shocking thing about all this the last few months here is the rhetoric, as you mentioned, from these Democrat elected officials, calling people Nazis, calling these law enforcement agents the Gestapo, President Trump's secret police. It's ridiculous. And I don't know if they actually believe it. I don't know what's really in their heart, but I do know a lot of people on those streets do believe that. And they keep telling them that. And they tell them to, disrupt these investigations and disrupt these activities that law enforcement is lawfully doing. Protest all you want, but you don't get to interfere in those operations. And it's incredibly dangerous. And my fear is through their rhetoric, we've already seen tragedies. We're going to see more of them unless they pump the brakes on this stuff. The solution is very clear. The de-escalation that can happen needs to come from the Democrats to say, protest all you want, but step back and let law enforcement do their jobs.
Yeah, because law enforcement will respond accordingly. I mean, they're trained. Let me move on to economics and Kevin Warsh, obviously a highly regarded person, is the president's choice to lead the Federal Reserve. Do you expect he will get confirmed? And what about this pushback from Tom Tillis?
I do. He's extremely qualified. I think he has broad support, may even have bipartisan support. I don't know, but the Democrats are in full obstruction mode. Look, when these things happen, there are always sorts of statements that are made and discussions that are had, but I fully expect at the end of the day, he will get confirmed.
Well, what do you want to see in terms of the economy and rate cuts? Different? Are you expecting a different policy coming out of Kevin Warsh's Federal Reserve?
Yeah, I think one of the great tragedies of the Powell era is that this sort of deafness to what should have happened months ago, in fact, probably years ago, is rate cuts. He's been overtly political, in my view, in his job. His assessment of tariffs, which were wildly wrong, along with most of the financial establishment. But now we're going to have somebody in, I think, that's very forward thinking, that's very focused on growth. We have record investment in this country, Maria, $19 trillion in the first year. You see the foundations being laid here for a boom for our economy. Look, there are people that are still struggling, and things are, not as affordable as we want them because we've had 4 years of maybe the worst economic administration we've ever seen with the Biden era. So I think better days are ahead.
Senator, real quick on Iran, the president sending that armada there. What are the options? Do you want to see the president take action here?
Well, look, I think that the United States is the most powerful military in the world. There's no doubt about that. And so deterrence is a big thing here. I think that ultimately the kind of regime change that might happen there has to happen with the Iranian people. However, we do have sanctions. There are tariffs that have been imposed by President Trump. I think that's adding pressure to Iran right now. The main thing is we don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. Those B-2s that came out of Missouri at Whiteman Air Force Base did the job and obliterated their nuclear architecture. I think President Trump is the peace president, and I trust him here to sort of work something out. So hopefully, and what I want to say too, Maria, is I don't think people are interested in a forever war in the Middle East. I'm not. But I think that's not really what's happening right now. We're talking about applying pressure, economic pressure, for the things that we think are smart here.
Senator, why does it take so long for us to produce the weapons that we need? I keep hearing over and over again, we can't make stuff fast enough.
Yeah, no, look, this is a challenge. And I think, quite frankly, some laziness that happened at the Pentagon over the years. We weren't focused on innovation. I do think that's changing. I think the presidency, one of the more underrated things that's happened in this administration, Maria, is not only with Secretary Hegseth, but Steve Feinberg, who's there as sort of the head of procurement. There's a lot of things that are happening internally, a culture change, that we have more competition, we can do things quicker, that we're not over budget and out of time. We live in a world of scarcity. We can't be everywhere all at once all the time. You see President Trump now telling the European allies they need to step up more meaningfully for their own defense so we can focus on the Western Hemisphere more meaningfully and the Indo-Pacific. We have to have the weapons to be able to do those things. I do think those changes are happening and there's progress, but it's been a problem for a long time, but finally we have an administration that's focused on it.
Yeah, I've been studying this on Mornings with Maria on Fox Business. Defense technology is certainly an area we're going to continue to probe. Senator, it's always a pleasure. Thanks so much. Eric Schmidt joining us in Missouri. We'll be right back.
We are entering the Trump golden age. All right. And Trump is on top of things, getting things done finally. No more promises, but actually coming through. So now that the Epstein files got released, let's move on to the next thing. Right? People got to get off and stop being stuck on stupid. All right, let's keep watching.
Powers like Mexico are actively involved in organizing what they call the resistance to Donald Trump. That's not my words. That's what Mexican officials who live inside the United States say. If you look on the ground in Minneapolis, there are a couple of groups that are very actively involved in the anti-ICE protests. One of them is in the same building as the Mexican consulate and has worked aggressively with them. It's called Clues. There's another organization called MIRAC that has also worked very closely with the Mexican consulate.
And that is Peter Schweitzer, author of the new book, The Invisible Coup, with me here last weekend. alleging Mexico's government is interfering in U.S. domestic issues, including the anti-ICE protests in Minneapolis. This, as the USMCA trade agreement is coming up for review this summer, and the president has already told me, and his team has told us, the plans are for bilateral trade deals between the United States and Mexico, and a separate deal between the United States and Canada. Joining me now is Mexico's ambassador to the United States, Esteban Moctezuma Barragan. Ambassador Moctezuma, thank you very much for being here. How do you respond to Peter Schweizer's comments there?
First of all, thank you for having me, Maria. I think that facts are much better than opinions. And I just want to tell you that when he says that we're working against President Trump, you know that the votes of Latinos to President Trump rose from 28% in 2016 to 48% in 2025. Mexican migration has been dropping constantly since 2000. And so what you see is that reality offers a very different view. Mexican and United States governments are working very, very closely in order to tackle the migratory issue. You've heard President Trump saying in the UN and in Davos that the border is the most secure border in the world. And regarding security, you know that deaths because of fentanyl overdose have dropped 27% in the US. And that's because President Sheinbaum has been very, very tough against Mexican cartels. You know that she sent 10,000 soldiers to the border. She has apprehended 24,000 people, and they have destroyed about 1,700 labs in Mexico. So the thing that you can see is that Mexico is part of the solution, not the problem.
Yes, and President Trump said that he had a very positive phone call with President Sheinbaum this week. Actually, he was very complimentary about the president. But Ambassador, what do you want to say to the critics who are questioning who really is running the country? Is President Sheinbaum really running the country, or are drug cartels in charge?
You know, Mexico, as North America and the world, has a drug problem, and we have to fight together against it. International crime is something that we have to gather together to fight against them. We have to gather together to fight against them. The US is cooperating with us.
Let me fix this.
I'll just let me tell you one thing about the last apprehension that occurred in Mexico of Ryan Wedding. You know that Kash Patel from the FBI, he said a tremendous shut up to the government of Mexico. President Sheinbaum, Secretary Harfuch, and the military and law enforcement officers in Mexico work hand in glove with our teams. So we're to fight against this important issue, and that's the way to do it.
Yes, and Kash Patel was my guest last week. That very comment, he said that here, actually. But
we got to get it done and work together.
Intelligence in following the financial.
Anyway, the internet is wilding out right now, but it is a lot of work. And the only way it gets done is if you follow the money. All right, let me fast forward to the next section. But yeah, Trump getting it done, not just promising things, is something new. And everybody's shocked that there's got to be a lie. Nobody's this good. Nobody is this honest, but Trump is. All right. Let's check out the next section. Sorry about that. Here we go.
in some cases to get in their faces, to record their operations and stop the operations. Joining me now with more on this, ICE and Border Patrol, in some cases to get in their faces, to record their operations and stop the operations. Joining me now with more on this Sunday Morning Futures exclusive is the governor of Texas, Greg Abbott. Governor, great to have you this morning. Thanks for the governor of Texas,
Good morning.
Greg Abbott.
Yeah,
Governor, great to have you this morning. Thanks for being here. And it's happened in the state.
all right, let me pause it. My internet may be a little bit off. But yeah, Border Patrol. I don't know why some government officials are talking against ICE when ICE is federal and you got these state governors just talking bad about them. Insane. But let's see what Texas is doing.
It's when you actually are working. Happened in the states when you actually are working with federal law enforcement. And
you know what?
And that's what
Only blue states are going against the government. All the red states are actually working with Trump, which is kind of racist, but is the truth. You can't go against the government. So the blue states are the ones paying.
what the case has been in Texas. Is that
Well, that's exactly right, Maria. Listen, and under President Trump, for about 8 or 9 months in a row, there's been exactly zero allowed to cross the border. 8 or 9 months in a row, there's been exactly zero people allowed to cross the border illegally and to stay. 8 or 9 months in a row, there's been exactly zero people allowed to cross the border illegally and to stay in the United States. Remember, President Trump, the largest victories ever for election is because he was made the succeeding at all those three things that he was.
All right, this thing keeps skipping, so I'm just gonna let it go and move on to the next section because this is ridiculous.
Worth of patriots to the Saudis. Sheikh Khaled bin Salman, MBS's younger brother, was in Washington this week, and they inked that deal. Worth of patriots to the Saudis. Sheikh Khaled bin Salman, MBS's younger brother, was in Washington this week, and they inked that deal for a huge number of patriots so the Saudis can defend themselves. It's not just It's not just us doing the defending. We're arming our allies in the region so they have greater capabilities to defend against Iran.
Yeah, it's a great point. It's just frustrating that it's taking so long to get the weapons on the ground that we make weapons fast enough to keep up with what's going on in the world.
No, we can't. But again, really
make weapons fast enough to keep up with what's going on in the world.
No, we can't. But again, really
now.
All right, this keeps repeating.
That's going to happen in 2026 in the Congress is critical.
All right, I want to take a break, and then I want to ask you about China and what just happened at the Panama Canal. Stay with us. Former Deputy.
All right, I want to see that last section. What happened at the Panama Canal? In any case, if you're still watching, make sure you give us a thumbs up to try to get the word out. And then stay positive. All right, last section for today.
It's a huge story, Maria, and this is something we've been working hard on at Heritage. And I was with President Kevin Roberts when he appeared live on your show from the canal last March, because we were down visiting it and visiting with President Molino. And at that point, they were saying, oh, no, there's no Chinese influence. There's no problem with China. It's an economic decision. Well, no, that got reversed this week because of the sustained engagement of the Trump administration and the president himself. He knows how vital the Panama Canal is to our economy. If you want to shut us off, shut off the canal. It's intolerable that China would control those ports. And now the Panama Supreme Court has declared that contract null and void. The Danish company Maersk is going to come in, and then we'll see if BlackRock takes them over.
Well, that was my next question. Do you think this opens up the opportunity for BlackRock to acquire those ports? Because we thought that they were going to be able to, but then China stopped them. And China has been very effective at infiltrating ports all across the world.
Yes, they have. From Darwin in Australia, the Australians may now be nationalizing that port to kick the Chinese out. Haifa in Israel, Piraeus in Greece. This is a terrible problem. And a lot of it is Hutchinson, which was a fairly benign Hong Kong-based country when they were under British rule. Now they're under CCP rule. It's become an extension of the Communist Party. They can't be trusted. They have to go.
Yeah, and I remember President Trump said, you go to the Panama Canal and all the signs are in Chinese. I mean, it's just obviously the CCP has dominated. Victoria, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks so much for your leadership and your excellence. We appreciate
All right. Well, there you have it. The Trump golden age. All right. You got Trump dealing with everything outside of the United States and inside of the United States. Where you got the Democrats politician talking against ICE and talking about why is the president deporting everybody and not just the criminals, which is like, if you're here illegally, you're a criminal. You don't have to be a violent criminal, but you broke the law. You came in here. So whenever ICE gathers any criminals which are living with the other non-violent criminals, everybody getting deported from the house. Well, I'm sorry, but the grandma and the little ones got to go. And they got to just apply to become citizens, so apply to come back to America. I'm Dominican. I applied and I got back in legally. All right? But again, in case if you're still watching, give us a thumbs up. My name is Noel, over here to trying to keep it honest with the audience, right? No more fake news. Now with streaming, everybody can have a voice. And the reality is that this president is going above and beyond the call of duty. All right? Cleaning up the streets is not an easy task, but it got to get done. And those ICE agents, those politicians calling ICE agents Nazi criminals, insane. Sometimes when you got to go, you got to go. So deport everybody back to their home countries. But what do you think? Comment down below. And if you're still watching, give us a thumbs up, because we got to be verbal on life and keep our voices out loud. Not be afraid to talk. Put your face in front of the cameras and just talk, or at least comment down below. Because at the end of the day, we are living in the golden age, right? I can't wait for tax refund season to kick in. Hopefully our taxes will be good. That'll get more people to vote for Trump. So if that money comes in, we're going to be set. I'm counting down. But what else did he talk about? So I didn't even know we had war with Iran, where Trump is just sending over the Navy over there to take care of that issue, just like he took care of Venezuela. And he locked up the acting president of Venezuela, locked him up. Man, our army is good. They were able to go in there and just take out the acting president. We're supposed to be the fake president, but he got it done. So, and then all those Mexicans that are here illegal or selling drugs, he's working on that one, taking them out. Another thing that he's working on is Cuba. Now that Cuba don't have the Venezuela oil coming in to help them out, they're probably going to cave. They are going to cave, and then another victory for Trump. I think the ultimate victory that everybody's waiting for is the Russia-Ukraine war. Once he get that done, and he doesn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, because they never give them any credit. They don't give him the Nobel Peace Prize, and they don't give him the midterm elections. Like, if he loses the midterm election, they're probably going to vote to kick him out. And it goes to show they're going to kick out a good man. It's going to be crazy. I think maybe one strategy they could do, maybe step down and give the presidency to J.D. Vance, which is going to be a great president when he runs and wins in 2028. Him or Marco Rubio, they're going to be great leaders of this country. And let's be honest, those are the two coming up that are probably going to be running the country next. Hopefully not a Democrat, because now the Democrats, they're coming off as liars. All right? People just make promises and make a lot of money. You're supposed to get this job to do good for the people, which sounds fake. And they're really making it fake. But that's supposed to be the job, because they get paid good enough to live a good life in America. Like, there's a senator, Ilhan Omar. Running as a senator, she was making like $175,000 a year. That's a lot of money. But somehow 1 year to the next, she made $30 million. I'm sorry. She got to get investigated. That's a lot of money. That's insane. Makes me want to run for Congress now. If you can make that type of money, 30 millions, crazy. But in any case, I'm over here with my little fight, running for divorce. I don't even want to talk about it because it's not set yet. But going through that drama, I can't wait till I'm done with it. Maybe I could make a video about it. That's my little drama of dealing with illegal migrants. I ended up marrying one. Who does that? Lesson learned. But who am I talking about myself here? In any case, yeah, Maria Bartiromo, I like watching her show. I think it's a great show. I think she's pretty honest. I didn't like the fact that the last show she was talking about how tough the ICE agents were against pretty, what's the guy's name? Something pretty good. That guy that ended up getting killed. Like, he showed up at a protest event with a gun and then went up against the cops. It's like you don't go up to a protest event with a gun on you. And it's pretty sad that he got murked, but it is what it is. So now Maria Bartiromo even was talking against that, like how sad that was. What the hell? Why isn't the agents calming it down instead of shooting and killing people? Like, killing people is the worst case scenario. It's nice to be alive. Great to be alive. Joining you guys, being able to speak my mind. Can't complain about that. But every man knows that you don't show up anywhere with a gun where there are other men with guns. You know, it's not a good look. And especially police officers. So I think that's something that everybody knows from when you're a little kid. You don't show up anywhere with a gun on you. It's not going to turn out good. And this guy actually did it. Showed up to a protest event with a gun on him and extra clips. Worst case scenario. I am glad none of the cops got shot, because it's like, how are you going to go to work and nobody goes to work expecting to get shot? You know, that's like worst case scenario. So I'm glad no police officer got hit with a bullet. Then you got to go home with that. It's crazy. In any case, let me take a look at the news here. Today is Sunday, February 1st, the beginning of the month. We all know that the Donald Trump checks are coming in soon. It should be a good tax season. And when that money starts piling in, definitely Trump is going to win more and more votes. I didn't even know there was a partial government shutdown this weekend. It's like, do we need to learn more about the government?
4-hour mark after the deadline passed for a deal to be approved by the House. Fox News reporter Madeline Rivera has the latest.
The effects of this government shutdown so far are pretty muted because it's the weekend and most federal offices are closed for the weekend. This is also a partial government shutdown, meaning about 78% of the federal government is affected. This does include the Departments of Defense, Homeland Security, Transportation, among others. Their funding has lapsed. Unlike the last shutdown, though, programs like SNAP won't be affected because Congress has already provided funding for it.
At least SNAP is not being affected. Some of us still get government assistance. Let me not lie, I don't get that. But partial government shutdown sounds crazy. Trump got to fix that. Let me see if I can show one more video before I sign out. I like to check out what other channels are talking about. The Black Conservative is a good one. Always talking about the latest news and what's going on, especially with all the Democrat haters that are working overtime to take down Trump. And they definitely suffer from Trump derangement syndrome. And be honest with you, do you suffer from Trump derangement syndrome? Like whatever Trump goes for, you do the opposite. Complete TDS. All right, my internet sucks. My internet is so slow. I got one viewer. Today is Sunday. It's supposed to snow on Wednesday and on Friday of next week. So I wonder, they're going to shut down the schools. I went out yesterday once with all the snow outside. And I said, I'm going to wait for the snow season to be over. Hopefully global warming kicks back in. And we go back to the warm season. Because, global warming is fake news. Hopefully it comes back. Oh, look at Jim Jones. But yeah, all the snow and ice means not going outside. Oh, that means I got to do groceries to hold me down for like a week. You know what? I got enough groceries to hold me down. I don't have to go anywhere. And that's the trick to not going outside. Get yourself enough groceries. Hunker down indoors. And you should be good. I got one view on Verbal on Life, and it might be my ex-wife, so let me shut up and not say too much. This week, I get to go meet with my lawyer. So let me just hold it down and wait. See what advice he gives me. All I can say is, thank God I got lawyer money. And that's something we all gotta know how to do. Set a little bit of money next to your savings account, because you never know when you're gonna need that lawyer to kick in. All right, let me check out a video from the Black Conservative. I like his perspective. Typically he's on point about what's going on. And most importantly, he's honest. What video did I just click on? Well, honesty from his point of view. And I like to concur. I'm all over the place here. I wish I knew how to make my internet go a little bit faster. This is what I get. I pay like $110 internet. Now, am I going to pay more? No, don't want to. Democrats suffer major blow after judge refuses to force ICE agent out of the state. I think I've seen all these videos already. Don Lemon, thank God he got locked up. He needs to be made an example of what not to do. All right? Not join criminals going up against the church. And it doesn't matter what religion you are. Don Lemon went into a church and stopped their congregation. That shouldn't happen. We need to make an example out of him, lock him up, and he's a big name. So if you lock him up, a lot of people will just take note and say, wait a minute, they're locking people up now for going into churches. Let's not do that. Look, CNN host humiliated. And set after fact check. All right, let me take a look at this video. CNN is another news network that's going up against the president. And in my opinion, if you go up against a president, you're going up against America and the best that we got. I can't believe America created a Donald Trump. So everybody has the potential to become that big. Right? There goes your example. And your example is not to leave America and go anywhere else. Stay here and blow up and grow.
Don, the indictment says you acknowledge children were.
Let me pause it while it loads. Shout out to all Dominicans. No Dominican should be in America complaining. Go back to your country, complain from over there. That's what I say. If you're here, shut up, don't complain. Enjoy the snow. Enjoy your time. And those who don't like snow, go down to Florida. Move.
Were afraid that parents couldn't get to their children. People thought this was a church shooting. Do you think you should have left? Good question. Yes. Don, the indictment says that you protected the address. You protected the element of surprise. You kissed the organizer on camera. Do you consider yourself a participant or a journalist?
Lock him up.
We on your side. Participating by saying don't you got your back.
I want to thank everybody for their support. It truly means the world to me. I have no idea what's going on because obviously I haven't seen anything. I have spent my entire career covering the news. I will not stop now. In fact,
I'm going to jail.
There is no more important time than right now, this very moment,
for
a free and independent media that shines a light on the truth and holds those in power accountable. Again, I will not stop now.
He should say, I will do life for you guys, right? That's how much I love the audience. I am willing to do life in jail. Put me away. Throw away the key. He's already a homo, so he'll be happy.
Now I will not stop ever. Last night, the DOJ sent a team of federal agents to arrest me in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
For something that I've been doing for the last 30 years, and that is covering the news.
And sleeping with men. Trump, send me away. Throw away the key. Put me in jail. I ain't scared. That's what he should say.
The First Amendment of the Constitution protects that work for me and for countless of other journalists.
But I'm going to start with an unpopular opinion, and that is calling Don Lemon a journalist is like calling AOC a free market capitalist. He is an activist. Look at his YouTube page. Here's a couple of titles of recent videos. 1, this is how to deal with ICE goons. 2, the viral MAGA idiot. 3, Don goes off on MAGA and
So
ICE.
is it your position
This is someone
that
who is not a
anybody
journalist. He is an activist.
Is it your position that anybody who expresses opinions is?
And if you're an activist, you cannot be afraid for the hit, to go to jail, to do life in prison, and then do more news reporting from in there. Like, hey, I'm doing all this for my people. Hopefully you guys are enjoying me in life getting ran through.
Is not a journalist.
Well,
Is
even
that
if
your
he,
I mean, me in jail getting ran through.
even if you
no.
agree,
I mean,
hold on.
well, let's deal
Even
with
if
let's
you-
deal
you-
with the accusation that you're making that he is not a
I think
journalist.
he
It's
shed the
important
veneer of being a
because-
journalist a
because
long
we
time
have
ago.
in the press a lot of different kinds of journalists. The Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, the New York Post, they've got editorial boards where people
For
are
what?
expressing opinions all the time. They're not journalists?
I think that Don Lemon is not a journalist.
But why?
But
Is
if
it
you
because he's
think-
expressed?
if you-
Is it because in his
listen,
view, in your view,
if
he's
you believe that
expressing
he
an
is,
opinion?
if you believe that he is a journalist,
But why?
I still think that he
Pete.
is wrong in this instance.
Pete,
If
but
you
you're
look
not-
at the
but
times
you're
of
not
journalists,
saying- you're not saying
I just
why.
don't.
It's like he went with a group and recorded the entire thing. Everything's recorded. So all that is evidence to be used against him in court. This is like the best argument that lawyers got against him. Like, take a look at the tape. It's public information. That's crazy. Like, whatever happened to to his journalist license? Doesn't he know a little better? Man, he is a super duper millionaire. That's another thing. Don Lemon is a multi-millionaire, above and beyond the Call of Duty. And he risked it all for us, for you guys, right? Man, I'll support him. What does he want? Like a phone call? Because he already got money. And he got a boyfriend. What else does he want?
Oh, I think he's an activist.
Well, but you just noticed.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to continue our coverage of the mainstream liberal media freak out over Don Lemon getting arrested. Okay, everybody in the mainstream liberal media is currently losing their minds over Don Lemon being held accountable, not for journalism, but for activism. And when you understand that, you understand why the so-called journalists in the mainstream liberal media are losing their minds. It's because this is a mask-off moment. They're not journalists. They're activists, right? And that's what I want to talk about here in this video, because, again, when you take a step back and you realize why these people are upset, it really shows you how the game is rigged, right? And what these people feel like their jobs are, right?
And Don Lemon is like a super duper extrovert that he just got to put his thoughts and ideas out into the public in front of a camera. He knows better. He knows he can't do this. His voice reaches a lot of people. Ultimately, it reaches the cops and lawyers and prosecutors who looks like they're going to lock him up.
And they're trying to boo-hoo, whine, and cry, First Amendment, freedom of speech, when the charges against Don Lemon from the DOJ don't really have as much to do with his speech outside of what he admitted on camera, more so than it has to do with his actions, okay, that contributed to the First Amendment rights of the worshipers of that church being violated. Now, they don't want you to understand that. They don't want you to know that, because basically they're trying to rig the outcome of the trial, if it gets to trial, ahead of time, right? And I believe that is what's happening here. So we got to talk about it, as Don Lemonade has been released on bail, okay? And now conservatives have the task of schooling the media, educating the media on exactly what Don Lemon is being charged with.
But you just noticed not a reason
when he's in the church and he's cheering them on. And he's saying, this is what you do. This is what you do. You have to make people uncomfortable.
That was his interpretation of what they were doing.
He was pointing out that people were scared and afraid, and practically taking a victory lap.
They observe.
No, he was cheering it on.
How was he cheering it on?
This is the beginning of what's going to happen here. When you violate people's due process, when you pull people off the street, you start dragging them and hurting them and not abiding by the Constitution, when you start doing all of that, people get upset and angry. And if you remember what the civil rights movement was about.
It's like rule for thee, but not for me. A lot of the Democrats were just doing anything they wanted to. They knew they had like the law on their side. Everybody else goes to jail and does time, but not these Democrat operatives. Insane.
The civil rights movement was about these very kinds of protests. There's nothing in the Constitution that tells you what time you can protest.
It's funny. I got police officer friend of mine that would just go in there and destroy these men, trying to stop Congress. Like, we're in the middle of church, and you guys want to come over here and occupy the area and destroy the services? There's so many men that would just go in there and catch wreck and destroy these men.
You can protest at any time. That's the whole point of it, is to disrupt, to make uncomfortable. And that's what they're doing. And that's what I believe when I say everyone has to be willing to sacrifice something. You have to make people uncomfortable in these times. If you see how uncomfortable people uncomfortably.
If he's pointing out what's happening right in front of his
face.
face.
Scared and afraid, and that's why
were they not?
Protest.
He's interpreting what the protesters
cheering it on.
How is he cheering it on when he's telling you what's happening? That's part of what we do.
Did you see the parts where he was?
He also told them,
Did you see the parts where he was interviewing, where he was interviewing the parishioners? Did you see those parts?
Yeah, and I also saw when the pastor asked him to leave, and he refused to leave for 7 minutes.
I didn't see a single moment where Don Lemon conspired with the others to further this crime. He was there reporting the entire time.
Advance.
So how did he further
He
that?
admitted that he knew about it.
That has nothing to do with
that. Journalists are often told about protests. That's what happens.
So if you know someone is going to be shot and killed and you go to cover it, you're not complicit.
Well, hold on.
If you cover it,
hold on.
Amber, yes.
Murder and protests are not
the president just arrested 2 journalists. Now I think that he's almost in double down mode. I thought he was in de-escalate mode. Now he's having journalists arrested.
Well, he arrested journalists for committing crimes and then filming themselves committing crimes and then talking and admitting on camera to committing those crimes.
You don't get an out if you're a journalist. If you commit a crime, you're going straight to jail, period. I mean, that's just common sense.
So, you know, just because you say you're a journalist doesn't mean he violated the FACE Act in 18 U.S. Code Section 241, among others.
You think he used force? Yeah, well, look, just because you know the number of the statute, bravo, you probably know the acronym.
I just read the
also,
indictment.
but they also want to throw the Ku Klux Klan Act after him. The indictment, as a lawyer, let me tell you, not an impressive document, and you should read into why that felony complaint that they tried originally got signed. Well, no, they're worried. They're worried about the application. They're worried about the application.
They like Don Lemon.
How did Don Lemon or Georgia Fort use force or intimidation? How did they use force or intimidation? Fundamental part of the mens rea of that statute. How?
Chris, I think it's laudable that you want to defend your friend. Don Lemon said on camera that the purpose of the event that he was actively participating in was to traumatize people. And he said that is good. That is what that is for. He went in there. He admitted on camera. You're believing the woman who organized it for some reason. You're not believing Don Lemon, your own friend. He said that he knew a secret. He knew about what they were doing in advance. He wouldn't say it on camera. He served coffee to his fellow activists in there. He violated the FACE Act. He conspired against rights. Very important point. You cannot claim First Amendment protections while you actively violate the First Amendment rights of others. My friend, Chris Bell, his wife, Joan Bell, was in prison for 27 months over this for an abortion clinic.
Because apparently the liberal media...
They know better, all right? The man was breaking the law, and we got to make an example out of them so everybody understands. If we break the law, yes, jail will happen. That's what follows. But in any case, let me know what you think. Do you enjoy the video? My name is Noel, here at Verbal on Life. Just super happy that they finally locked up Don Lemon. All right? He actually was able to record him breaking the law. So it's clear to people watching what it looks like when a reporter goes ahead and breaks the law, or when anybody breaks the law. So yes, he needs to be made an example of. He made an example of somebody breaking the law. Well, let's make an example of somebody doing life in prison. Well, not life, but at least 30 years. And then Don Lemon will get to be happy that he doing it for the people. Even though he's a multimillionaire, that would suck. If you're a multimillionaire and you got to go to jail, that's worst case scenario. But play stupid games, play stupid games, you pay stupid prizes, or you get stupid prizes. Some shit like that. Shout out to everybody out there, and if you enjoyed the video so far, been here for an hour, give us a thumbs up. My new goal in life right now is to try to stand out from here. This is what I get to do, battling my MS. Not easy, but here we are. With that said, see you in the next video. Peace, and I'm out.